Hello, my name is John Brink, and you're watching a history of the BC forest industry. Thank you for joining us today. My guest will be Danielle Dysserinck, and Danielle has an interesting position in Mackenzie. She's the Deputy Emergency Program Coordinator. That's a long name, Daniela. Can you tell us a little bit about that position?
Yeah, for sure. So my position with Mackenzie is it's kind of split into three silos. So it's split into planning, response, and then recovery. So a lot of the role is planning and preparing for the worst, but hoping for the best. We identify all the hazards in the community. So our greatest hazard in Mackenzie is wildfire, with the high amount of fuel surrounding the area. And then response, so when there is a wildfire or an emergency, then we directly respond, or we work in the Emergency Operations Center to support the resources on the ground. So the Emergency Operations Center operates to get resources. If we have wildland crews on the ground or structural firefighters trying to protect homes, then we'll work to get them the resources they need to continue to mitigate those hazards and recover from the emergency. And recovery at the end is helping our residents to recover post-incident if they lose their homes. We have emergency support services, and then we also have a bunch of services in place that we can support our residents to recover post-emergency.
Interesting. Big job, big position. So tell us a little bit about your background. I understand you're from Kitimat originally.
Yeah, for sure. So I was originally from Kitimat. I graduated high school from Mount Elizabeth Secondary School in Kitimat, and from there I got a scholarship to go to UNBC and went to UNBC for 4 years. At UNBC, I received a degree in political science with minors in international studies and First Nation studies. And then from there, so I continued to go back to Kitimat every summer and work at the aluminum smelter Rio Tinto Alcan, and was able to continue and finish my degree in 2015 and work with Northern Development Initiative Trust. And they host a bunch of local government administration internships. And what they do is they take recent graduates from UNBC and other universities across BC, and they take these recent graduates and they place them in small communities. And these interns work with the local governments and help them complete a lot of projects, and they're able to hire these interns. So I was able to do this program, and my placement was in Valemount, BC, just about 3 hours southeast of Prince George, and I did my internship there. I was there for only 4 months and then got offered a position in Port Clements on Haida Gwaii, where I worked as the deputy clerk, deputy CAO of Port Clements on Haida Gwaii, and I was there for 6 months and then got offered a position in Mackenzie. So I moved to Mackenzie in 2016, and I've been there ever since. So almost coming up on 5 years in Mackenzie here.
So very interesting track record. What brought you to making the decision as we contemplate as to what our careers should be, will be. We make certain choices in terms of training, education. In a particular direction. Was it your intent to, political science I kind of look at as somebody that either wants to work in government or is pursuing something in the political fields, direct or indirectly? Was that what you had planned or anticipated?
No, actually a kind of a common theme in my life is that I kind of just take opportunities as they come, and that I don't have a plan. And a lot of that kind of plays into my role now with emergency management, is you kind of got to roll with the punches as they come. So I actually got the internship to go to university, and then got approved for summer employment at Rio Tinto Alcan smelter, and then kind of just took courses as I was interested in. So courses that I took were kind of random and all over the place. And then when I was in my 3rd year of university, I went and saw the academic advisor and kind of asked her, what can I get a degree in with all these courses that I've taken? And she advised me that if I took a few more courses, I'd have a degree in political science, and that's what I ended up doing. But a lot of students that are in that program actually go on to law school or go on to work in government or work with political parties. So I was a little bit of an oddball there, but with Northern Development Initiatives Trust internship program, it allowed me to go in the direction of local government administration, which I really enjoy, helping small communities get grant funding and work with these small communities to help them in the case of an emergency. So it ended up being a great fit for me.
Right. Another thing that I found interesting, kind of looking at your LinkedIn and your background, is that you also had a minor in international studies as well as First Nation studies, which I found very interesting because, in particular, as for First Nation studies, because it's so new and so unique to UNBC. I don't think that there are any other universities that I know of are providing a course in that. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that getting a degree in First Nation studies, or even a minor, or even to take a course in First Nation studies, I would recommend anyone to do so. The courses at UNBC are extremely unique. They host courses actually in canoe making, so you can actually work with First Nations elders in UNBC in the area of Prince George to build a cottonwood canoe. They did that a few years back, and I think they're still hosting those courses. But I think the most valuable course that I took at UNBC was the building a pit house course. So we actually built a traditional deck house pit house, and we had 3 weeks to build this pit house, and we used a bunch of donated cottonwood trees, and we worked with First Nations elders to build a pit house. And you can still, if you visit Prince George, you can hike behind the Forest of the World and still see this pit house. It's still there. And I think that was the most valuable course, because you work side by side with elders and you learn the language, and you're able to learn a lot about tradition, carrier traditions, and you really see the fruits of your labor. So it was really a great experience for sure.
Well, in particular, working with the elders from Clayton, Chennai, and building, part of their tradition and interacting with them, learning some of the language, it's very, very helpful, very, very unique, right?
Mm-hmm. And we actually ended up, as we were building this pit house, we constantly were seeing frogs around. So we ended up calling it Lakasliyo, which means frog house in Dakel carrier language, which was really cool. It was a cool experience. And we were able to do a lot of drumming and singing, and we were able to really learn a lot about the language, which is huge, as well as the other courses as well that I took. I took a lot of courses in health and healing, and I took courses in reincarnation, which are just a huge part of the culture and learning a lot about the First Nations culture. But I think it's just great. I think anyone that wants to have more education in First Nations culture and language should take courses at UNBC, because it's just so hands-on.
Yeah, no question about it. So all of this really laid the foundation for you, to give you very, very broad experience in the different regions, and especially as it relates to what prepared you for the emergency program coordinator position, which is another unique position, because I've been in the industry, in the forest industry in Northern British Columbia for 55 years. I had not heard about that type of a position, although it obviously makes a lot of sense. So is Mackenzie, the region of Mackenzie, are you employed by the region or by Mackenzie or the province of British Columbia? And is the position relatively new to the province as a whole and the regions individually?
I think emergency management, there are more and more positions popping up all across British Columbia as the states of emergency keep kind of expanding. And I think with the pandemic as well, and all the different communities that have had to declare local states of emergencies with the COVID outbreaks, we're going to see an increase and a greater demand in emergency management, because there are need for these individuals to coordinate provincial resources as the emergencies arise. So my position specifically is with the District of Mackenzie. the District of Mackenzie identified a need for a position in emergency management to kind of mitigate these hazards and work with residents on preparedness and planning, response and recovery. And so a lot of my role is also public education. I do presentations to the daycares as well as presentations to members of the community, and do kind of trade shows and things to encourage preparedness and resiliency. But I'm also a resource of the province. So the province can utilize me in emergency operations centers or on the ground structure protection. In the past, during 2017 wildfires, I was on a structure protection unit through the District of Mackenzie, and we were deployed to Cache Creek, Clinton, and 108 Mile and fought fires there. I was also deployed to Dawson Creek to help out with the Fort St. John landslide in October 2018 to help residents there that were displaced and evacuated.
So you are uniquely qualified for something that I kind of view as something that is emerging as the emergency program coordinators throughout the province as emergencies occur. They're not only related directly to the forest, but also indirectly. If you kind of look at the forest industry in the last number of years, and the forest industry has gone through a major transition post the pine beetle pandemic, and now, and already for a number of years, the spruce beetle pandemic, which has led to other issues in regards to add to that global warming and the fires of 2017 and 18. And then an industry that, as a result of a lot of the timber base, being substantially reduced, led to substantial reduction of the annual allowable cut. Subsequently, communities have lost their traditional mills like Mackenzie, Fort St. James, number of other, about 25 sawmills in the province or in the interior have shut down, creating all kinds of other emergencies indirectly related to your position, because all of a sudden now a community like Mackenzie, there are issues with, obviously the reduction of AAC, that mills have become, harvesting of the timber has become much more expensive, where the industry is no longer competitive in the region, which means that that has to be addressed in some form of fashion, where it becomes again more competitive for people to invest in regions, smaller communities like that. And all of those are other challenges that you direct or indirectly are exposed to, correct?
Mm-hmm. So we're the fourth largest TSA timber supply area. And with that comes a large amount of fiber and a large amount of fuel. And with the spruce beetle as well, the spruce beetle kill, we have a large amount of fuel for wildfires. So a lot of my role with Mackenzie in my emergency program coordinator role is fuel mitigation as well. So we have all this high amount of fuel along Highway 39, our one way in, one way out community. So we've got approved for a lot of money through Forest Enhancement Society of BC and the CRI program through UBCM. And those programs have allowed us to do more fuel mitigation along the highway, as well as around our prescriptions in town. So the future might be looking at the forest industry playing a bigger role in the wildfire mitigation. But in regards to us losing our mills, I think that the cost there needs to be some changes in the future with forest policy, just because it is, like you said, so expensive to operate in our area, and we're not competitive on the global scale just because of all the upfront costs and all the residual costs that really aren't accounted for in the operation.
Correct. In our area. And as an industry in the province and interior coast as well, we are no longer competitive in the international market, and even more so in areas like Mackenzie, which you indicated is the fourth largest TSA in the province. Prince George is the first largest TSA, where these regions have become no longer competitive as one that needs to be addressed. And the government is addressing those together with the industry, but it will have to lead to policy changes that changes that. The other part about it is that is always a question close to my heart is how do we become better stewards of our resources, because we are so blessed in BC with just the amazing resources that we have. How can we become better stewards in the resource? How can we grow more fiber per hectare, similar areas like BC or Sweden, where they grow at least 50% more fiber per hectare than we do? How do they do that? And then the other part, at least 30 to 40% more labor employment. So we have to add more social and economic value, look at the products that we manufacture. And then another part close to me is, we'll talk about it at the end a little bit more in terms of the future. How do we develop the skill sets for a changing industry in the interior and in the province of British Columbia?
Yeah, the industry's changing for sure, and we need to change with the times. I think we're, like you said, we're very fortunate to have a large timber supply. It's very robust. Mackenzie specifically was built to support the forest industry, so we have the ability to provide a lot of fiber. And but how long is that going to last? So future planning is huge, right? We need to start thinking about the future and being more kind of intelligent about how we monitor our resources.
Yeah, and kind of talking to you in particular about this position that relatively new in terms of emergency program coordinator, is only step one. I think that will go much, much further. It is as a result of emergencies that occurred in 2017 and 18 when global warming and all the things in combination we had in climate, we had major fires in the area that created evacuations of the cities. And, so it has become something that we have to look at much more closer in terms of the land base and the forest base and the working forest, in terms of what is left behind in the forest and how can we address that better in terms of allowing the forest to come back to a free to grow stage and increasing the volume grown per hectare, but also how do we deal with all the fuel left behind and potentially causing or help or at least creating more potential for fires in the forest. And all of that will become much more important, but then evolve further into how do we manage the forest more effectively and all those other issues, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think with beetle kill, spruce beetle kill and pine beetle kill, there's this larger quantity of this fuel buildup, right, that we really need to be managing better. And if there's a way that the forest industry can better collaborate with emergency management to produce new growth, but then also mitigate this old growth that is causing hazards, because the new growth is not really the issue. It's the ground duff and all that left behind fuel that can just go, right?
Correct.
It can cause major wildfire.
Correct. And then the other one, Danielle, as you well know, is that, we are not uniquely the only ones that are having issues with, beetle kill. Europe and Germany and other places there have major issues with beetle kill as well. That makes me then think in terms of, I'm a believer that global warming is a reality and we must adjust to that in a way that we become more proactive in anticipating and invest likely more into the forest base, so that at some point that will pay off for us in terms of having a longer sustainable forest.
Mm-hmm. And I think that looking to other countries as well, kind of a peer into my international studies background, if we can not reinvent the wheel and be looking a lot into what Sweden and Germany are doing in regards to forest practice, I think that is a great kind of move in the right direction.
So the other thing that comes to mind, is that, and I want to kind of get your opinion and thoughts on it, is that, the industry now is, the forest industry is in transition again with the new reality. And other things that are happening is we all the equipment that we now operate in mills likely will all change in the next 5 to 10 years. We have new jobs, new skill sets that are required, new technology, scanning, and robotics, and all of those other things, making new products for new markets. And one of the main concerns always in my mind has been that how do we train, how do we develop the skill sets for the new industry that we have? It will not be that we do not have the fiber. It is not going to be a question that we don't have the market. We have the people that will invest, but how do we find the skill sets? And I've been working closely with the College of New Caledonia as well as the UNBC for many, many years about and more recently with the College of New Caledonia on a center of excellence, not unsimilar to BCIT down the coast, that we would develop here in the region, in the Prince George region, close to the College of New Caledonia, who has then the satellite campuses, including in Mackenzie, Quesnel, Vanderhoof, and throughout the north. I believe we have to invest in that so that we can then develop the skill sets that we need for a new and changing industry.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that because, and it's, the forest industry is, yeah, I don't know, moving forward, I think digitally, we're moving so fast as a society. So everything's changing. People are discovering that they can more easily work from home than come to the office. So the need for space and the need for the face-to-face labor is becoming less and less as modernization happens and we get more and more technology and more kind of robotics and the move towards a more digital world. I think there becomes less and less of a demand of things that previously were in demand, and as we move forward, I think that with globalization as well, it's cheaper and easier to be producing overseas, which is causing a crisis for the forest industry in BC and especially northern BC, right? So I think moving forward, that, like you said, we need to adapt and find ways that we can be more efficient and find ways that we can work with this new modernizing world, rather than kind of sticking to our old ways of production and just kind of going as is how can we be more effective and how can we be more competitive moving forward? And I think it's such a complicated topic and maybe way beyond me, but I think we're moving so fast that we need to find some kind of policy and some kind of method and procedure that we can change with the times.
Yeah. On the other hand, we are uniquely positioned in BC because the forest belongs to you and me, the people, and there is a social contract well understood by industry related to that in terms of adding further more value, social and economic, to the resource, and to become likely with global warming and beetles and all of the other things, we have to again become competitive in the world. That means that we have to invest in our forest space. It is uniquely, BC and especially the interior is unique for growing forest well, because I always remember the Bowen clear cuts, the beetle kill in the Bowen in the early 80s, related to, that at one point was looked at as the largest clear cut. They could see it from the satellites in the sky. You meaning everybody go down there and look what happened to how it did come back is absolutely unbelievable. And I believe the other part is that I believe it is important that a potency, meaning that manufacturing should take place in the regions, at least part of the manufacturing is very important, so that we do not see situations where the fourth largest TSA in the region with Mackenzie as an operating area all of a sudden has no more mills, and simply because it is no longer competitive. We have to address those issues as a province, and again get to the point of attracting capital that is willing to invest in the long term, but that also means that we have to have training infrastructure in place, and again become an industry that from far and wide is admired, and people come from all over the place to see the beauty of our province, but also the opportunities to, where we manufacture products for the world from our amazing forests that we have here.
I agree with that. Yeah, there needs to be some planning for the forest longevity. There needs to be planning for training and for adaptation, so that we're not kind of riding this wave of economic despair every 10 to 15 years. I think the future of planning has to really be thinking about longevity, and then how we can become more competitive and how we can continually change and ride the wave of the market, so that we continue to be functional and not end up losing more communities like Mackenzie due to this kind of wave that we ride right now.
I think the future is bright. I believe that the future of the forest industry is bright. The involvement of First Nations is very encouraging. We like to see more of that, and communities becoming more proactive, as Mackenzie under Mayor Joanne has been doing, being very proactive, and seeing people like you in the industry, I think is good for our industry, and the industry looks bright, looking forward, but we have to all be proactive like you are, speaking out about it and making people aware.
Yeah, I think we're very fortunate in Mackenzie to have a mayor like Joan Atkinson, who is really well knowledgeable about the forest industry and is a strong advocate on even the global scale for our community. And moving forward, she's pushing for changes in forest policy. And I think it's such a blessing to have a mayor that's as involved as Joan.
I agree 100%. And to have people like yourself involved that have such a passion as well. Thank you, Danielle, for being my guest. Wish you success. We'll stay in touch. Hopefully we'll do another interview again in the future. And thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much, John. Have a great day.
Okay. Thank you for watching us today. Our guest was Danielle Dysserinck. She is the Deputy Emergency Program Coordinator, a bit of a long name, but a very, very important position in Mackenzie, and a very, very interesting background that Daniela has. She talks to us about issues relating to a changing global warming, the forest-based emergencies that may occur, what to do about it. Extremely important, very, very interesting. And again, thank you for watching us, and we'll see you the next time.